Welcome to the module on statistical approach to establish quality systems. In order to establish the quality systems, there are 7 quality tools which is frequently used by several quality practitioners across the globe. And in this particular module, we will be discussing each one of these quality tools in detail. As an introduction, a statistical process control is an analytical decision-making tool which allows us to see when a process is working correctly and when it is not. Variation is present in any process. Deciding when the variation is natural and when it needs a correction is an important factor to be judged. And in order to understand these variations, whether natural or needs correction, statistical tools are being utilized so that one can have a practical decision and a quantitative measure can be adopted in order to decide whether the variation is natural or it needs a correction. Coming to the typical examples, like any process can be represented by statistical terms. Like for example, if you want to see a particular variation in any process, the tolerance will be given in either only plus or minus. So in either cases, you will have a center line as shown in this particular figure, and then you will have an upper control limit as well as the lower control limit. Till the time the variation is between the upper and the lower control limits, that means the variation is normal and it is under control. The moment it crosses either the upper control limit or the lower control limits, that means the variation is due to the assignable causes and it needs correction in order to get back the process under the control. So this is a typical example which can be applicable to any process you want. Like for example, if you want to see a cube strength, the standard deviations and the limits within which the strength of the cubes are varying, you will have an upper control limit as well as the lower control limit for the variation, and then based on that you can always judge that whether your variation is within the limit or it is out of control or away from the limits. Therefore, statistical process control is used to describe the variability that can be controlled or cannot be controlled. This variability is also called common cause or special causes. Common causes occur within the nature of the process. It exists in all processes. Special causes affects the process and it is this which needs to be controlled. The process is said to be under control if there is no variability because of the special causes. Statistical process control, some more examples if you see. This is a typical layer thickness chart for say either it is dBm or BC. Now in this particular case we are monitoring the thickness of dBm and the center line is say 60, that means the required thickness of the dBm is 60 and the variation is plus minus 6 mm we have adopted. So that means the variation could be 54 to 66. That means anything between 54 to 66. That means the process is under control and the values are within the tolerance limits. That means there is no assignable causes which are affecting the process. But at the same time, if you see a graph like this, in which case at locations where you can see that the thickness of the dBm is either too heavy, too high, or it is too less, that means special causes are showing process not in control while checking the layer thickness of the dBm. The moment you come across with such situations, that means there is a need to adopt the control measures, and the possible variables or the possible special variables could be the paver not working properly, or string lines are disturbed while paving, or levels of the bottom layers are not properly checked, or it is not proper at all. So that means the correction has to be done right from the bottom layers or the machine, whatever, wherever the possible causes are or the special causes are, but immediately we need to stop the paving, check for the root cause or the main cause of the variations, and then start afresh by correcting all the situations, so that in future paving, or whenever we come across such type of variations should not be seen in the process. Statistical process control is one of the process is under once the process is under control. Once the process is under control, the next stage is to improve the process. The only target for the production is to get the statistical control and to reduce the special variables. Because as the special variables reduces, the cost is going to be less. Why? Because you need not take any special effects in order to control the special variables. For example, when in the previous slide, when we are checking the depth of the asphalt layer, that is, for example, the DBM layer, when the DBM layer thickness exceeds the control limits, the cost of laying increases. That means the changes are because of the special variables. So the moment your special variables are within your control, the moment your process is within your control, the cost of laying will be within your control, and you will not be paying excess in order to complete the process. That is why this is a quantitative method to control the process in an effective way without incurring much on the cost part. Statistical quality control, that is the reason why we say statistical quality control is a scientific method to analyze the data. It is based on this analysis, measures are taken to maintain the quality of the construction. It is not just a presumption that since we are doing with this set of equipment, you should hold these controls in order to make sure that your process or the quality of the construction should be good. No, it's not like that. Based on the historical data, based on the current data, analysis can be run, and based on the analysis, based on the process performance, you can always judge whether your process is working within the limits or the process is working beyond the limits or away from the limits. And then you can take proper preventive measures or precautionary measures in order to make sure that your quality of construction is within the required limits. There are 7 basic tools generally people use in order to make sure that the process is within the control or under control, and we call it as the B7 tools. Like to start with, it can be monitored or it can be analyzed using a flow chart. You can have a cause and effect diagram. You can have a checklist in place in order to ensure that your process is perfect. You can have a Pareto chart. You can use the histograms. You can use scatter plots, and also you can use control charts. These are the various methods with which you can always visualize how your process is performing for a particular period of time. Now, in the upcoming slides, we will be discussing each one of these tools in detail, but in this particular module, we will take care of flowcharts and cause and effect diagram in specific. And in the upcoming next modules, we will deal with the other 5 tools, which is a checklist, Pareto chart, histogram, scatter diagrams, and control charts. Now, flowcharts is a graphical picture of a process. There are 3 shapes, namely process, decision, and process flow, which completes the flowchart. For any process to happen, you need to have a process in place. You need to have the decision-taking authorities or decision-taking logical steps to be in place, and then you need to show the flow of the process, like how the process is flowing, like what is your input and what is your output, and what will be your next point of contact. So flowcharts has a start point and the end point with intermediate process and logical decisions involved in it. Typically, we show process with a rectangular shape, a decision with a diagonal shape, and process flow with an arrow. Flowcharts for inspection process. If you see typical flowchart for inspection process, just to illustrate an example, it starts with the identification of the areas to be inspected. If the defects are observed, then immediately corrective action should be taken so that effect can be minimized. Then the root cause needs to be determined so that the preventive actions can be ensured. Then finally, the process is said to be closed once the acceptance of the product or the work is ascertained. For the similar thing, which is in the earlier slides, we have seen as a write-up, can be shown in a flowchart. Like it starts with the start button on the top, then the activity we are talking about, the process we are talking about, that is inspection of work. Then we talk about the decision block, which is the defects observed. If it is yes, it will go to some more process, and then if it is no, it will go to the next process, that is check the product, confirm the quality, and if it is okay, then acceptance of the product, and then ends. But the moment it is yes, that means the defects are observed, analysis of the cause of the defect, that is the root cause, and then you need to take the proper action to eliminate the defect, and then finally check if the defect persists in future products also or not. If it is yes, it will again go to the inspection loop. If it is no, it will go to the acceptance loop. See how easily one can show in a single piece of paper the complete process of inspection works for a particular activity. Similarly, a cause and effect diagrams, if you see, the cause and effect diagram is a tool that shows systematic relationship between a result or a symptom or an effect and its possible causes. The major purpose of this diagram is to act as a first step in problem solving by creating a list of possible causes. It is an effective tool to systematically generate ideas about the causes for problems and to present these in a structured form. The cause and effect diagram is also called the Ishikawa diagram or the fishbone diagram because the shape of the diagram looks like a fishbone. Cause and effect diagram is generally used when it can be used to structure in a brainstorming session, especially when a team's thinking tends to fall into ruts. It immediately sorts ideas into useful categories and when identifying possible causes of a problem. If you see the process of making a cause and effect diagram, so you have to start with identify and define the problem or the effect. Place the problem or the effect at the right or the head of the diagram, we call it. View the diagram and evaluate the main causes. Set the goals and take actions on the main causes. Continue the process of branching off each main cause, and then the final results will represent a pile of all factors relating to the effect being explored and the relationship between them. So as you see in the diagram, for example, agree on the definition of the effect for which the cause is to be found, then place that effect in the dark box at the right hand side. For example, in this particular case, we are talking about the cracking in concrete, which is being placed in the head of the box. Draw the spine or the backbone as a dark line leading to the box for the effects, which is basically a backbone. This is the start as far as the fishbone diagram or the cause and effect diagram is concerned. That means you need to identify the effect. It can be cracks, it can be honeycombing, it can be any defects, spalling of concrete or cracks in the bituminous work, crack in the PQC work, any defects, anything, any effect which you want to analyze, it needs to be placed in the head portion, which is on the extreme right, and then you put a backbone behind it. The main causes needs to be identified by using the brainstorming techniques, that is using the 6 M's, what is manpower, method, money, measurement, machinery, and materials. Now these are the 6 branches which are being connected to the backbone of the effect which is being drawn in the previous slides. That means because of this effect, what are the other parameters which are getting affected, like whether your money is affected or method is affected, or it is because of the manpower or material or machinery or the measurement part. Apart from 6M, we also add one more element, that is the environment, like whether it is because of the temperature or the wind velocity or the humidity or whatever such conditions are there. But for this particular study, we are taking only the 6Ms. We have not considered E part, which is related to the environment part. Now, further secondary or tertiary causes can be identified to correct the main cause using the brainstorming techniques. Once the diagram is complete, discuss the relative importance of the causes. Shortlist the important root causes. Like for example, if you see the fishbone diagrams, you have, if you are focused on manpower, that means there can be a supervision issue, there can be a skilled or unskilled manpower issues. If you are talking about the method, it could be a placing issue, it can be a compaction of concrete or a curing issue. When we talk about the money, it is affecting the cost of repair, because any defect is a rework, which is directly or indirectly causing money. Then measurement part, if you see, it can be because of the workability or the depth of crack or the type of the cracks. When we talk about the machinery, maybe it is because of the speed of the pour which is not matching, or the compaction requirement which is not being maintained during the pour sizes. And when you talk about the material part, maybe it is because of the mixed design, or maybe it is because of the raw materials. So the idea is, for each type of effects, you categorize the main branches in terms of M's, 6 M's and 1 E, and then the 6 M's can be subcategorized into the branches, and the complete process is being taken care using the brainstorming sessions. Similarly, if you see a defect in a curve, again the same thing, you divide it into 6M and 1E. That is, when we talk about E, it is maybe because of the wind speed or temperature or rainfalls. Then when we talk about material, it is mixed design or raw materials. When we talk about machinery, it may be because of the shape of the mold or speed of the machine or the leveling equipments, alignments, workability of the mix, cost of realignments, curing, joint cutting. So all those methods related to methods, manpowers, money, material, machinery, and measurements are being subcategorized depending upon the type of the defect and the element in which the defect has arisen. And then it is being properly branched logically using the brainstorming session, and then the effective thing which is actually impacted because of the process being adopted in a particular site is being treated as the main cause or the root cause. For example, if it is because of the mold the defects in curbs are happening, that means you have identified that the other things are correct. It's only because of the mold you are facing difficulty in laying of curbs, which is resulting ultimately in terms of defects. That means either by modifying the mold or by replacing the new mold, you can correct the defects. If it is speed of the machine, that means you need to check your speed of the machine, and you should run the machine in such a way that your speed of the machine is in line with the compaction required and the workability required for the laying of the curves. So this is how for each type of defects you need to have a brainstorming session in place, and the final output or the final effect can be judged for that particular cause. To summarize this module, we talked about the statistical approach to establish the quality control and the quality assurance on the quality systems. We talked about the statistical process control. We talked about different tools available in statistical quality controls, the flow diagram, and then the cause and effect diagram in this particular module. There are 7 tools available in statistical quality control. Out of the 7, 2 are being discussed in this module, and the rest 5 will be discussed in the upcoming modules. In the next module, we will cover some more quality tools like Pareto chart, histogram, and checklist. Till then, thank you for watching. Tune in for more updates.